will go straight on YouTube. And I'm also thinking, like, if I debate or discuss now with you, given that no one knows your identity or your face, would it be okay to use it as a YouTube shit?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have your consent,
Oh my days.
bro.
Oh fuck.
It's this day and age. You just have to.
Yeah, I guess.
Do you give me your consent? No consent?
I give you my consent. You can kiss me, bro.
Okay. Me as Pope 100 meters, I'll give you my blessing, child.
Thanks, man.
Anytime. I absolve you of any sin. You'll go straight to heaven.
Wow, crazy.
So what do you want to discuss? What do you want to debate? Red pill stuff, politics, streamers, drama, history.
This also, like, I don't know.
Left
You know,
history.
something I found really interesting.
Tell
I saw
me.
on the internet. This may be too controversial, but what do you think about puberty blockers for children? Are they of age to consent under 18?
I thought a lot about this question, and I'll give you my ideal scenario. So let's say we live in a world where all these kids go to a psychologist who's actually an expert in gender affirming care, and he can predict with like a 100% accuracy who is actually a trans person or who is a confused child and sees it more as a meme or a trend or a way to cope with depression or other underlying issues. So if this psychologist in general could with 100% accuracy identify who is actually trans and who is not, then I would definitely think there's absolutely no problem with puberty blockers even given to children, because I know that those people will be trans for life. It's like you can't just be trans and then stop detransing. You know, like once you have a male brain in a female body and vice versa, you'll be trans for life. Your brain will always be feminine or masculine, and it will not align with your body, with your physical appearance. So in that case, I would 100% give it. But we don't live in that world. That's the thing. So that would be my ideal case. So in today's case, so in the actual case, I have a problem with all those misdiagnosed people, or people who are mixed diagnosed as trans, and then when they try to go back, some things become irreversible. Even though they say puberty blockers are reversible, there are still underlying effects that nobody has tested, and it's still not. Actually, people couldn't be tested because treating trans is a very new thing. Like, it's really new.
Yeah,
so
that's the thing. It's very new.
I would be very careful with prescribing puberty blockers, because when you take puberty blockers, that's almost like the first step in your transition. So I don't think that it just stops at puberty blockers. Like, let's say you start taking puberty blockers at like 6, you react pretty well, like you don't have any adverse reactions in the near future. And then I think it usually comes with bottom surgeries or top surgeries and so on. So once you are extremely deep in that area and you realize when you're older you're actually not trans, you were just depressed and you found love and support in your trans family that maybe your parents didn't provide you, or whatever the case might be, and you want to do transition, first of all, you will not be able to have children for your whole life, and you won't be able to completely reverse that. And I know this because there was a Jubilee debate with trans people and people who detransitioned, and they were all misdiagnosed. So, me personally, to answer your question, in an ideal world, yes, where everyone is diagnosed with a 100, or let's say 99.99% accuracy, like who's trans and who's confused, I would have no issue whatsoever to give those drugs to children, including if they would be my own children. Right now, I'm a little skeptic, and I lean more towards the side to wait until they can fully consent to that idea, which means 18 in most cases.
Yeah, I think I probably agree with you. Um, of course, the ideal world where you can 100% tell is like, I don't even know if it's gonna ever be possible in our lifetime, or not. Sorry, definitely not possible in our lifetime.
You think so?
Probably never possible, because I mean, actually, I don't know. That's a huge extrapolation. I can't say that. But
Yeah.
for now, bro, you can't even 100% diagnose someone with 100% accuracy. Right now, to diagnose people of things is not 100% accurate, right? So,
But it's pretty accurate in most cases. Like it depends. If you're talking about ADHD, depression, schizophrenia, bipolarity,
ADHD,
yeah,
for
it's pretty
example,
high. Yeah.
it's not 100% accurate. The diagnosis, when I got diagnosed with ADHD, right, and when the psychiatrist, I believe it was a psychiatrist, I'm not sure her title, but when I got diagnosed, it was just an interview, it was a criteria that
Yeah.
I had to check the list,
Yeah.
and she didn't know, how could she know whether my personality traits overlap the symptoms of ADHD people, right?
Well, so I had clinical psychology at university, and we usually use the DSM-5 ADHD criteria. And I could actually read you the criteria right now. So normally, it depends how old you were. Like I wouldn't ask a child who's like 9 or 10 all of these symptoms, and then think like, oh, that's it. You have ADHD. Like I would also consult the parents. I would look at the school performance if it's possible. Also have an interview with one of the teachers. And it's normally, I'm actually not going to read all that. Like it has to be over a long period of time, like at least 6 months, I believe. It has to impact your personal life. Also, other people might also be impacted by your ADHD. And if it impacts your career, like your lack of focus, if it impacts your performance, like at school or at work, and if it also affects your personal well-being, like you realize because of your lack of concentration, you feel depressed, or you get anxious, or you start showing problematic behaviors like drinking alcohol and other type of shit, then I think you can clearly say that someone has ADHD. And all these things can be, no matter your personality, if you personally suffer because of it, or your career suffers because of it, or people around you suffer because of it, I mean, it's pretty clear it can be, no matter what type of personality you have. That, oh my fucking god, they were cutting a tree in the park. Like here, like it says.
Let me finish. Let me just say one
Yeah,
point.
okay.
If you're really high in extroversion, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard for you to sit still. You know what I mean? And you're also low in conscientiousness. You're not gonna want to do strenuous mental. What's the word? You don't want to put mental effort. And if you're high in openness to experience, you're gonna have loads of different ideas that you don't want to be thinking about this small exam problem and be very attentive to it. You know what I mean? So how would you count? Like, who would you say for that?
I think it touches different areas of life. That will be my answer to you. Like specifically to this question, fails to give attention to details or makes careless mistakes in schoolwork, work, or during other activities. So you said very high extroversion. That was your first point, right? So very high extroversion is normally characterized by wanting to, like, seeking external stimuli in the shape of interaction with your friends, interactions with your family, interactions with other people, being actively involved in social activities. And in let's say during school, children who are very extroverted actually pay attention in class, and they want to get involved because they like talking, they like engaging with the content of the class, or they want to just hear themselves talking.
Wait. So you're saying people who are high in extroversion do well in class?
I don't say that they do well in class. I say that they are active in the class. They might give bullshit answers, or they might be extremely good on whenever about what they say, but they would
But
always be active. For example, like if you're an
what kind of
extroverted
school
person,
are
yeah,
you talking about though? Because in Romania, especially, there's not a lot of talking, but mostly the teacher talking. No.
it changes in high school and it depends on the subject. Like for example, okay, I visited a German school in Romania. It was still in Romania, and I also had both German and English Romanian teachers, so I had like a taste of both worlds. And in classes, for example, like Romanian, where we were taught by Romanian teachers, or English, where it was still a Romanian teacher, especially in higher grades like high school, like we normally had like open talks, debates, presentations. Like I think things changed. Maybe in classes like chemistry or informatics, it's not that high of an engagement because it's more of like you being focused and solving a task. But like, and I am talking about in cases where you have to look, like discuss like a something about pop culture, something about like philosophical, ethical questions, a historical, I don't know, something
Okay.
like that. So then, in that case, extroverted people, they would actually show an interest,
Okay.
and they would try to get in, like they would like to participate because that's their thing. Like I don't want to give anecdotes.
In those instances,
Yeah,
they probably would do well, right? In seminars where you can
exactly.
have a discussion with other people. But you do agree that majority of classes aren't like that, right? In the world,
Like
generalizing
let's
America, Europe,
um
Asian, or whatever.
so you mean the majority of classes that focus on literature and languages, or the majority of classes in general regardless of the subject taught in the class?
I think regardless of the subject, 90% of the time in classes you listen to the teacher, no?
Are we talking about high school or university too?
Let's just say below university, so high school and below.
um at my school, so at my school in Bucharest, we were actually actively encouraged to give our opinion, to be present, even in the lower grades, like 1 to 4.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool. But this was this a private school or international school or just normal state school?
Just state school where where like the first and fourth grade were exclusively taught in German. Then you have like intensive German classes in the middle school, and for high school, specifically for my class, I took the German Abitur, which is like A levels in UK, or SATs in USA, I think. So there I had more classes in German. It was still a state school. Like I didn't have to pay any kind of money to enter there. I just had to be pretty well versed in with German. That's
So
all.
how so as a percentage roughly?
Yeah.
How much of the time would you say that you would be talking, and how much of the time would the teacher be talking?
Bro, so at the German subjects, that like the subject that were taught by German teachers, that's what I mean, like history, math, and German, of course. I think most of the talking was done by us. Like we weren't really writing a lot or taking notes. It was like more a lot of discussion, and we are constantly encouraged to think. Like even the exams, I never had any multiple choice exam in high school in those subjects. Even in math, we actually had to explain our thought. We couldn't just give the answer. We just had to explain why, and we even had to apply it with to a real life context with words. Like actually, I had to write paragraphs during the math test what this would mean in the real life words, and how I actually thought that, why I thought like this to solve the problem.
Okay, that sounds like a really cool teaching method, and that's actually very interesting, right?
Yeah.
But you do agree that most schools are now like how your school was, right?
So wait, are we now still talking about the psychologist inability to diagnose ADHD, or are we now talking about school systems?
No, so okay, so my point was that it's not 100% accurate when people diagnose mental health disorders like ADHD, right?
I don't think anything can have like a 100% accurate, but I think the accuracy is pretty high.
I think it's probably high.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of room for error. I believe.
What would mean, like, if I would tell you that the accuracy in diagnosing ADHD, especially to boys, because it's commonly met to boys, is about 90 to 95%, would you say this is a big room of error, or what would a big room or error mean to you?
I think that's still a big room for error, because
like 5 to 10%.
5 to 10% is a lot.
But 5 to 10% of people falsely diagnosed with ADHD, or not diagnosed at all and they actually have ADHD.
I can see what you mean. It's like the what's that, the
alpha and beta errors.
The benefits outweigh the problems, I guess you could say. The cost is not really a cost. The benefits outweigh not diagnosing, right?
No, I'm talking about like two different errors. Like first, let's say 95 of people get correctly diagnosed with ADHD and 5% of people get misdiagnosed. Or let's say 90% of people get correctly diagnosed with ADHD, 5% of people get misdiagnosed, and 5% of people have ADHD and are not diagnosed. So what error are you talking about? Do you think that people are misdiagnosed with ADHD without them actually having ADHD? Or do you think that more people have ADHD and we don't diagnose them with ADHD?
No. Overdiagnosed.
Overdiagnosed.
Yes. So people are misdiagnosed. So they say they have the report says they have ADHD, but they don't.
I would say that you can misdiagnose people with ADHD, or the error rises. I can now say if it's significant, if it's only with a little bit, if it's exponentially, but I think the error rises when you're talking about prepubescent children, like aged 4 to 10. I think the error in falsely diagnosing or misdiagnosing someone with ADHD rises, because children, you know how they are, like they can be super energetic. Most of them get bored in school. Some of them are not even disciplined. They don't really give a fuck. So they can actually be misdiagnosed with ADHD. But if you have like an adult or a high schooler who like cannot even concentrate in class, is constantly daydreaming, starts, I don't know, like gets up, gets down, or has constantly attention deficits, and he's like over 14 or 15, I think the chance of him having something else other than ADHD is very low. Because like, look at the first question: fails to give attention to details or makes careless mistakes in schoolwork, work, or during other activities. So it just doesn't focus on some boring class. Let's say he likes a lot literature and history and English, but he sucks at math, or I don't know, like things related to math, like physics, chemistry, informatics. Then at least to those subjects that he enjoys or that he has a natural affinity to, there I would expect him to not make careless mistakes. Or when he's working on something really unrelated to school, like when he just has a job like most 16 and 17-year-old people now have nowadays, like if he works at McDonald's or at like a fast food chain, and he constantly mistakes the orders or something else, or in other activities, like you gave him a video game and he like constantly thinks about something else, he makes stupid mistakes. Like in those cases, I think that person has to have ADHD. It can be anything else. Like you can't make the same mistake constantly, repeatedly, and in different areas of life over an extended period of time without having ADHD. Do you agree?
Yeah. But
like I would say that the misdiagnosis is mostly dependent on the age of the child. Like if the child is super young, as I said, prepubescent, I think that it can easily be mistaken with something else. But once,
But
yeah,
for example, for me, right, for my
yeah,
case, I was like, I checked all the criteria. I was like 9 out of 9 for the attention deficit. But when I play League of Legends, for example,
yeah,
man, I'm fucking good at this game, right? And
yeah,
I concentrate like 100%. I concentrate like fully.
yeah.
When I'm at my work, I don't make more mistakes than other people. In fact, I'm probably quite good, I would say. So it's not about making a mistake, but giving enough focus on that task, if you know what I mean.
How long can you concentrate to League of Legends? Like, can you concentrate for, let's say, hours on end, like really hyper focus?
12 hours, bro.
But this is also like something typical to ADHD. Like this, like people describe it as hyper focus. Like they have this kind of tunnel vision, and all of their senses are almost heightened to a, let's say, superhuman level, or that's how they self-reportedly described it, where they can actually focus to such a high degree that they normally show abnormal levels of focus, but then once that thing is done, they feel completely depleted by, like, on an energy level. And I'm not does this also apply to, like, after one intense League of Legends session where you really hyper focus, which is doesn't naturally happen to you, then they most of them say that they feel exhausted.
Yeah, I remember someone saying about hyperfocus. Bro, I'm so hungry, man. And there's still nobody here.
Okay, so do you wanna go back to the original question with the transgender, or you wanna move on to another subject?
Let's go to another subject.
Still about transgenders or about what?
Bro, how much chess have you played?
Chess?
Yeah, how much chess have you played in your life?
So I haven't played chess in years. The only time I played chess, let's say more frequently, like I never played professionally or had a tutor or took YouTube lessons. I used to play with my second girlfriend when I was in the 12th grade, and we started playing in August, early August, and we played until, like, for 1 month. We played pretty often, and I remember the first game I beat her in like 4 moves, and then we played more and more and more, and she never beat me. So, like, she literally could never steal a win. So after that, I got bored, and I never played again. And I know one time, and then in the same year I went to university, and I played against a girl who said that she played a lot against her boyfriend, who was super good at chess on a local level in Germany, not national, just local level in Germany. And I played one game against her, and I beat her, and that was all. And since then, which was, let me see, 2018, 2019, I think it was 2018, I haven't played chess. I don't think so.
How many games would you say, like two handfuls or handful?
Let's say 50, maybe more.
50?
In my whole life, yeah. If I count everything.
Personally, probably less or the same. You know, we could play chess if you want. You want to play chess?
Now, I am too tired to play chess now.
Bro, I'm fucking tired and hungry as well.
And I'm not really in the mood to play chess, but we can play chess tomorrow or during the weekend.
You want to be ready.
Yeah, because no, the thing is, if I play chess with you on this stream, then we can't really have a conversation. I really have to focus. And because
it's gonna be more interesting than this fucking 50-year-old TikTok guy, bro.
Playing chess, I don't know, man. But we can definitely do, like, if you really want, we can do this tomorrow or during the weekend. Just let me know if you're.
Probably another time. You know what's really funny though?
What?
Don't say the name, but you know, Fosta, man.
We're still talking about that, okay?
We were playing chess, and she started fucking beating me, bro. I taught her how to play, and after like a handful or two handfuls of games, she started fucking beating me. And I don't think I've ever felt more humiliated in my fucking life. She was fucking smart, man.
Your ex-girlfriend?
Shut the fuck up, man. I said in Romanian. Jesus Christ.
I didn't say her name. You told me not to.
Anyway.
I won't say
Yeah,
her name.
whatever.
Yeah. You want to talk about red pill? You want to talk about girls? You want to talk about? Let's talk about girls.
I don't want to talk about girls.
You don't want to talk about or you want to talk about roles of women in modern day society?
I think all women are queens, and they shall be respected.
You don't think women should be respected?
Huh?
You don't think women should be respected?
No, I said I think women should be respected, and I think as men, there should be a tax for men. You know,
a tax for men.
We should, a tax for men
for being a man.
For being a man.
Okay.
So you give that money to the woman because. Okay.
And would it also include trans men and or not? Like if I would say, for example, that I'm a woman, then I would be exempted from paying the tax?
Of course, you get the money.
Oh, nice. And if I'm non-binary?
Oh, you get double the salary.
I get double the salary. I thought that if I'm non-binary, I neither get nor receive, but I get more money. What if I identify as a transracial, non-binary
you're a fucking
vampire?
You're a billionaire at that point.
This actually, I have a question to you, like a serious one. You know, I actually lean more left than right. I think like you know me pretty well.
What the fuck? How dare you say that? Okay.
And but there's one thing that that I heard in, let's say, right-wing spaces that I think I kind of agree with it, that in pop culture right now there's like this pyramid of how do they call it, of victimhood. Like you have the pyramid of victimhood and it always changes, and whoever is at the top, like whoever claims to be the biggest victim of them all, is basically untouchable in the public space. Like let's say non-binary or transgender right now, like they are seen as one of the most oppressed minorities, and which before used to be black or Jewish people or homosexuals. And now I think if people really start holding black or homosexual Jewish people accountable, but when it comes to non-binary or trans people, if they do some public shit, people really try to cover it up. And I can even back it up with 2 examples if you want.
That sounds like a very interesting topic. Yeah.
Are you sarcastic?
Well, I think you're cutting out.
You want to change the topic?
So, I mean, I don't know, man. So you're saying I think, probably I agree. Like,
you think there is like a pyramid of victimhood right now?
I don't know how to comment on this because I haven't really thought about this. But there might be some truth in that, I'll say. So, for sure, like, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can.
Are you spacing out with your ADHD? It's hard to focus.
So do I agree if...
Like, do you think there is a pyramid of victimhood, or do you think it's just an excuse of right-wingers to increasingly shit on trans and other minorities they don't particularly like, which can be anyone who's not white, Christian, American?
So, you're talking about yourself in the fucking Christian fucking home right now.
Oh yeah, I'm the most Christian American white person you ever met in your life.
So
I'm the poster child of a Christian white American.
Let me think about the question. So, do I think? Oh well, yeah, of course. Like there's like some protection, if you know what I mean, towards the victimized group of people. That's for sure. No.
Do you think it's always been like this, or do you think it only exists now in today's day and age?
I mean, bro, when 20, 30 years back and
Okay.
said some racist stuff in America,
Yeah.
What's the effect of it? Or what's the consequences of that, right?
I don't think it would be as bad as today.
Yeah, definitely not. So let me think. And then wait, I'm trying to piece this together. So if a person of color,
yeah,
right, did something bad, so you're saying, so I'm trying to understand. So you're saying if a person of color or from a person from a marginalized group did something bad, they would get more of they're like the punishment isn't as great. Is that what you're saying?
depends. Like, I'll give you actually a concrete example so you can understand.
Okay.
Do you remember George Floyd?
Yeah.
Yeah, when the one who killed unjustly George Floyd was the Derek Chauvin. He was the police officer, which was basically daylight murder.
Mm-hmm.
And he was heavily criticized for what he did, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was no denial. There were protests against him and actually directed against white nationalism or whatever. But that he was directly held accountable for what he did, both legally, but especially on the internet, like on the social, I don't know how to call this, on social platforms. And then you had there was another video, which I think this happened this year or later in 2020. It was actually insane because I saw the video. I'm not sure exactly where, but there was this black guy who was beaten to death by 5 other police officers. Like, they chased him on the street and they beat him to
What the
death.
fuck? What's his name?
Let me search. Officer beat black. He was black, by the way, the victim. Memphis. It was February 2023, so not even that long ago. Memphis police officers, but don't Google it. Don't Google it. So those 5 Memphis police officers literally beat the guy to death. I'm not sure I can show this on stream, but
why don't you want me to Google it?
Because I'll tell you why. But the video was brutal. Like, what Derek Chauvin, whatever his name is, did to that guy, it's nothing. Like, they tased him, they stepped on his head. Like, bro, it's insane. And they chased him, and then they were laughing while they were killing him. So it was brutal. Now, the 5 police officers who killed him, they were also black. So even though there was like a big uproar and whatever, the whole BLM protests and the internet and the social media didn't react by far as aggressively as they did in the Derek Chauvin case, even though this was definitely more insane, because you had 5 people, not one, who were actively gunning a person down, tasing him and beating him to death, filming it, and enjoying themselves. Like, you literally had a manhunt in 2023.
Okay, so firstly, there's two points to be made. So firstly,
yeah,
I can understand that this is the situation is much more like the seriousness of the situation is much bigger, right? Like what he did, the graveness of the crimes that the policeman committed is fucking insane compared to the other one, right? But you also have to take into account how many of the situations happen as opposed to white police officers going after black people. You know what I mean?
What do you think is the number? How many black people do you think were killed last year by white police officers in United States?
I have no idea.
Just tell me a number, because you said it happens more often, and I actually have the numbers.
No, I didn't say it happens more often. I said we have to know. Maybe I did say it happens more, but I take it back. If I did, what I wanted to say is we have to look at the statistics to compare like how many happens, how much corruption. I don't know the word, my fucking words.
I know what you mean. So do you know how many people, black people, were in 2022, unarmed black people were killed by police officers in the United States?
No idea.
Just estimate.
No idea, man.
Do you think it's more than 1 million?
More than 1 million?
Yeah.
There's like, what, 250,000 people in America? So what, like
No,
1 in 250?
250,000. Like in America has a population of roughly 300 million people, and 12% of that population are people of color. So you have around 30 million people of color. 33, something like that.
1 million would be like 1 in 250, and if you were to divide that by...
It would be insane. It would be a very big number. So what would be a big number for you of black people killed by, unarmed black people killed by police officers? Because armed black people who are shooting other police officers, you can't really count them as victims. So I'm talking about unarmed black people killed by police officers. What do you think the number is?
So you said unarmed?
Unarmed. Because if they're armed and they're shooting or they're a danger to society, they will obviously get killed.
You can't necessarily just look at the statistics of unarmed, because what if they pretended to have a gun or reached into their waist and were uncooperative?
If they pretended to have a gun, they're still unarmed. Then you didn't have a gun. They were not armed.
So my point is, just because they're unarmed doesn't mean...
Like if you are armed and you present, like police would kill you if you are, they won't kill you if you're armed and you have your gun under your bed in your house. Like they wouldn't come to your house and kill you because you have a gun in your house. They would kill you if you bring that gun in a public space without a permit and you're a danger to society, or you point that gun at a police officer. Or if you're reaching to a gun when you're talking to a police officer. I mean, other reason than shooting or threatening them, I don't see it. And it's still a good reason for them to shoot you. Like imagine you're a police officer and you're chasing or you're trying to arrest a black guy and you see him having a gun visibly and then he's trying to grab that gun and shoot you. Wouldn't you prevent the shooting by shooting him, whether fatally or not?
What I'm saying is that the person is unarmed, but he was still shot by police unarmed.
Yeah, so but unarmed, it means that he wasn't in the possession of a deadly weapon or a gun. Like I'm talking about Derek Chauvin is one of those people. Like he didn't have a gun, he wasn't posing a physical threat to any of those officers, and they used excessive measures to pin him down and they killed him.
Your question to me was, what's my estimate of
unarmed black people killed by police officers? Whatever.
I think the better question is, what do you think is my estimate of unjustified killing of black people by police officers?
So unjustified or justified, that's like a matter of law and a court to decide. Like that's not for the public opinion to decide, that's actually for judges. Because it's very subjective. What I find to be justified, other people find to be not justified. And the case of Kyle Rittenhouse just proved that. Like the guy who killed the rioters thing.
Yeah, but just being unarmed, just knowing the fact of them being
unarmed and being killed by a police officer is almost seen as unjustified. Because there was no reason in most of the cases being unarmed and still being killed by a police officer, unless you're not like a serial killer who can kill people with his bare hands, unless you don't pose a very high threat to society.
Do you count cars? What if they used car as a
weapon? I just count unarmed. Just car would also count.
What if he ran his car towards people? Is that being armed or not armed?
I think it's being armed, because everything has been. It's about being carrying a weapon, and a car can be weaponized. So I would also count it as armed.
So what if he ran at the police officer?
Bro, let's not talk about all the hypotheticals. Just give me a fucking estimate. You have a country of 300 million, almost 30-something million, closer to 30 million people are black people.
Do you have the statistics?
Yeah, but I just want... What do you think would be a big number in your head of unarmed black people killed by police officers?
I have no idea, man. Okay,
What would
this
be
is-
what would be a for you, Nathan? Ah, shit! I saw your name.
You fucking idiot.
Anyway, there's millions of people with your name in the world, so nothing big. You, bro.
You don't. You're gonna have to edit it out.
I'll edit it out. So for you, bro, what would be a big number?
Okay.
For you personally.
Okay, I'm not gonna give you a number. I'm gonna give you a percentage because I have no idea.
No, give me an interval between this many million or this many hundreds of thousands or between this many thousands of would be a problem for you.
Well, this is fucking stupid. I don't know, like 1% of the fucking black population. That's probably an insane amount. So wait, so you said 300 million people are.
That would be like that would be like 30 million. That would be like 300,000 people a year, which would be an insane high number. That would be 1%. 300,000 people.
How much did you say?
So 1% of 30 something million, which is their population, would be something around 300 something thousand people, like 300k.
Yeah, I have the calculator. It says 360,000 people.
Yeah. That would be an insane amount of people killed.
That's an insane amount, yeah. So how much is the actual number?
23.
23 what?
23 unarmed black people killed by police officers, of whom 13 were killed by non-black or white police officers and 10 killed by black police officers.
Wait, hold on. 23 were white police officer towards...
No. 23 black unarmed people were killed by police officers in 2022.
Okay. That sounds like an insanely low number, but my number was just a random...
yeah, so for me, if it would be a couple thousand or even 1,000 or even a couple hundreds, I would say maybe there is a systemic error. Like maybe there is something wrong with the police department in United States, that it poses an active threat to a person by being black. But 23 is like such an insane low number, and that doesn't mean that all those deaths are not tragic. Like, they were tragic, and those people should be punished if found guilty by a court and a judge. But what I mean is, I don't think that you can, for 23 unjust killings, you can say that a whole police department in a whole country is racist. I just don't think it is. But the question was like, why people reacted way more negative towards Derek Chauvin, but about those 5 police officers who were on a manhunt with that person, who posed almost no threat to them after they tagged him down, and they enjoyed torturing and killing him because it was basically torture what they did. There wasn't such a big outrage. There wasn't nearly as big of an outrage because it was black on black. But when it's white on black, the outrage is insane. And I don't think it should matter which race kills which race. I think it would matter the context in which that person is killed, why it's being killed, and who the perpetrator is. And that's why I'm thinking that there are also other media examples, like that school shooter also earlier this year who was a trans person. Like people, they didn't focus, the focus wasn't on, and he killed that, and his trans identity was actually a motivation to killing him, which doesn't mean that being trans makes you kill people. Just like there's plenty of white Christian people, radical white Christians who also partake in school shootings and murder innocent people, and just because you're a Christian doesn't make you a shooter by default. But in some cases, being radicalized by your religion or your sexual identity or whatever, if it leads to killings, then it's a factor. And when you have white Christian people in the United States, which is a demographic I'm not identifying with at all, kill someone because they were encouraged by their religious beliefs, they immediately make headlines. But when that trans person killed people because they were trans and they were bullied when they were trans, and that was a motivation to specifically target a Christian school, and I think they killed almost 12 children under the age of 10, which is actually insane, and like two teachers. Then the headlines were not about them being trans or the trans being a possible manifesto, but they were always about ban guns, which I completely agree. But when it's about Christians or radical Christians killing people, then it's just not about banning guns. It's also about banning dangerous beliefs, like or trying to take Christianity to the dirt. So I think there is this kind of hypocrisy and which builds this pyramid of victimhood that if you are part of a minority and you fuck up really badly, then people try to diverge the attention or they try to minimize as much as possible what you did. But when you're not part of a minority and you're part of a group that's socially accepted to hate or mock or whatever, then when people criticize you, they also criticize that identity, like being white or being Christian or being conservative. But when someone on the other part does something bad, then those parts of their identity are somehow overlooked because those are the nice parts and they only focus on something else, or they try to minimize the problem at all, which I think.
No, definitely. I mean, obviously, man, it's so hard to talk on stream.
Why?
I don't want to say something wrong, to be honest. So
you just say what you believe. Maybe I also said something wrong.
No, man, it's not worth it for me, man. But how can I say this? I think so. Clearly, there's some bias. Of course, there's some bias towards non-marginalized groups, right?
But do you think this bias leads to this pyramid of victimhood, that the higher you climb the pyramid of victimhood by being trans or black or coming from a poor background or from a single parent house or whatever, that it somehow attracts lenience from other people when you do something bad? Like, do you think Trump, who made some big mistakes during his presidency, if he would have been queer and black, do you think he would have been as heavily criticized as now? He would have had the same behavior, he would have made the same mistakes, maybe he wouldn't have said the same racist shit?
But he wouldn't have done all these things because
if he would be
part of his agenda.
No, but he would have still had like a bad relations with the other European powers. He would have still said "Make America Great Again." He would have still be racist towards Latinos and build a wall.
Probably because Barack Obama did like quite some more, like killed a lot of people in Iraq or Afghanistan. I remember.
And Bush started the war in Iraq.
Didn't Obama like do some atrocious things?
He mistakenly bombed American civilians because he thought Iraqi terrorists were hiding there. That was like the big one mistake he did. Like he ordered a bombing of a place in Iraq, I don't know exactly where, and there were like some American civilians there, and he mistakenly thought that there was a terrorist hiding there and there would only be terrorists, and he killed them. But his goal was to fight terrorists. He didn't just bomb random civilians because he felt like it. It was still a mistake, to which I hope he owned. And he also ostracized Edward Snowden for whistleblowing on the NRA, basically spying on the whole world. I would say these two were some of his biggest mistakes. And he gave Putin way too much leverage.
To answer your question, probably